So this is take 3, so let's hope it works. Okay, so this is a lecture about the immune system, one of my favorite topics in AP Bio. And remember, it's to go along with reading 3-4, which is chapter 35 in your textbook. It's also to go along with the worksheet that I passed out in class on the Friday before Thanksgiving break. And it's to prepare you for quiz 3-4. Okay, so the immune system. So our big questions, first, what is the purpose of the immune system? And second, how does the immune system function? At the end, I'm going to talk a little bit when do things go wrong with the immune system. Oh, and also I'm going to post this Prezi to Google Classroom as well as my lecture, and you'll notice that there are actually embedded videos as well in this that you can listen to as well. They're from another AP Bio teacher. Okay. So, the immune system, animals are the only organisms that have major immune systems and have a degree of innate immunity. So that means non-specific immunity. So this image should look familiar. It was on the worksheet that I passed out to you the Friday before Thanksgiving break. It's also in your textbook on page 712. And we're going to be basically working through that image, that figure, while we go through this lecture. So innate immunity is also referred to as non-specific immunity. That includes things like the skin. Specific immunity includes B cells and T cells, and we'll be talking more about what those are. That's a little bit more complex. So the specific part of the immune system, the adaptive immunity, is responding to specific pathogens. A pathogen is something like bacteria, fungi, virus, something that we don't want getting into our body, something that's harmful to our body. So the specific immune system is looking for one specific one of those, whereas the non-specific is just blanket trying to protect you against any foreign thing coming into your body. Okay, so let's move on. So our immune system in humans is composed of our lymphatic system and our leukocytes. So the lymphatic system is a whole series that goes throughout our body. If you've heard of having swollen lymph nodes right here, that's part of your lymphatic system. This image here sort of shows you how it spans throughout our entire body. And leukocytes go around our circulatory system and our lymph nodes to protect your body. Leukocytes are white blood cells. Okay, so innate immunity. This again is the non-specific part of our immune system. So we begin with external. So things like the skin or mucous membranes. So that's our external barrier. And this prevents things from coming in. So if we think about skin, right, it should be fairly intuitive that skin helps prevent infections, right? If you skin your finger, then you know that you're more likely to get bacteria coming into your body, which is why you would intentionally cover it with a Band-Aid or some sort of bandage, right? Because you know that if it's just left a gaping wound, you're more likely to get some sort of infection. So that makes sense. Also, sweat glands make the surface of your skin fairly inhospitable to microorganisms. They don't really like the thing that we don't often talk about is that actually on our skin, there's a whole bunch of microorganisms that live on our skin naturally and should be there and are actually helping to prevent us from having pathogens, things we don't want coming into contact with us, because they're taking up a bunch of space, and they're sort of like, this is our territory, which means that if something else comes, there's not space for that other thing. That's why people say that antibacterial soap and whatnot is actually really detrimental, because it kills that bacteria that you actually want on your skin and is actually helping you. So moving on to mucus. So mucus, here we're talking about the stuff inside of our nose or inside of our eyes, saliva in our mouth. Less so, we're not so much talking about that with mucus, but same idea. We're talking about mucus inside of the reproductive organs. So mucus is disgusting and sticky, but there's a reason why it's so sticky. It's actually to help catch bacteria, right, and other pathogens so that they can't get further. It also contains lysozyme, which messes up the bacteria cell walls and makes it so that they're not going to be so successful. So again, this is part of our external, non-specific immune system. And finally, we have cilia on our epithelium. So if you remember when we were talking about bacteria, they can have cilia. It's kind of like these tiny little hairs around the bacteria cells. So similarly, along the lining of our respiratory tract, so for example, going down our esophagus to our lungs, there's cilia, and that cilia actually can serve as a trap for pathogens. And so those pathogens aren't going to get further into your respiratory system, or same idea with your digestive system. They're not going to get down to your digestive system because they're getting caught by the cilia, the tiny little hairs. Okay, so there's also part of our, and this has to do with white blood cells or leukocytes. So the type, so this right here, this image is going over all sorts of white blood cells. Right now we're going to focus on these ones, phagocytes. These ones we're going to focus on when we're talking about specific immune response. So phagocytes. If you remember when we were talking about phagocytosis, phago means to eat. So phagocytes are eating. They're eating a whole bunch. They're eating all sorts of pathogens. So if we look here, we have a phagocyte eating a pathogen. They are the kings of phagocytosis. So they take in some sort of pathogen, they swarm it, now it's part of me, and then they bring over a lysosome that's full of enzymes, and they're like, and they bind them together, right, in a little vesicle, and then now those enzymes get to work breaking down the pathogen, and then spit out all the little pathogen parts. So phagocytes are excellent at eating things and breaking them down. And if we look and back, got a very short little video.